Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mythlok, where we dive into the myths, legends, and gods of ancient cultures and bring them to life through fascinating stories. This is your host, Nitin Nair, and today we are venturing into the heart of Aztec mythology to explore a figure that is just as mysterious as it is profound, a god that transcends singular identity. Today, we're talking about Ometeotl, the dual god of Aztec mythology. A god that isn't just one entity, but two, a male and female, together representing the perfect balance of creation and destruction, life and death, male and female energies. So sit back and prepare yourself for a journey into the cosmic duality that is Ometeotl. Imagine, if you will, standing atop a high temple in the great city of Tenochtitlan, looking out over a sprawling empire. The Aztec people, known for their vast knowledge of the cosmos, agriculture, and architecture, also had a deep spiritual connection with the universe. At the center of their belief system stood Ometeotl, a god who was just not one, but two, a deity beyond the binary of human understanding, representing the cosmic duality that the Aztecs saw as essential to the universe. Let's begin by imagining what Ometeotl might have looked like. It's important to understand that this deity, as a dual god, isn't usually depicted in physical form. Ometeotl doesn't have the tangible, anthropomorphic traits of gods like Quetzalcoatl or Huitzilopochtli. Instead, Ometeotl is often represented by abstract concepts. If anything, the Aztecs imagined this dual god as a merging of both masculine and feminine energies, often seen as a pair: Ometecuhtli, the male aspect, and Ometecuhtli, the female aspect. Ometecuhtli, the lord of duality, embodies strength, protection, and the act of creation itself. Omechihuatl, on the other hand, is the lady of duality, representing nurturing, birth, and the continuation of life. Together, they are seen as two halves of a whole, inseparable and eternally in balance, standing at the pinnacle of all existence. They are often described as being without form, formless, yet embodying all forms, and without beginning, for they were there before the creation of the universe. This makes Ometeotl unique, a deity that extends beyond our understanding of space and time, embodying the primordial forces that shape everything. Now, Ometeotl's role in Aztec mythology goes beyond just being a creator god. They are the parents of all other gods. Yes, you heard that right. The very gods we often associate with Aztec mythology, like the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl or the sun god Tonatiuh, all are born from Ometeotl's union of duality. They gave birth to 4 sons, each of whom represents a cardinal direction and an element adding to the complexity of the universe. In different sources, Ometeotl goes by different names. One of the most significant is Tonatiuhtli and Ometecuhtli, the Lord and Lady of Sustenance. These names highlight the deity's role in providing nourishment and life to all living things. The duality of their being reflects the balance needed to sustain life, the balance between destruction and creation, day and night, death and rebirth. Ometeotl's powers are not your typically godly attributes of thunderbolts or shapeshifting. No, their abilities are far more abstract but infinitely more powerful. They hold dominion over the primordial energy from which everything was born. It was from Ometeotl's duality that the gods were created, the cosmos shaped, and the cycles of time initiated. They embody the Aztec concept of duality, which is fundamental to their worldview. Everything in Aztec beliefs hinges on the balance between opposites like life and death, light and darkness, male and female. Ometeotl is that balance personified, or rather deified. Without this cosmic equilibrium, the world would descend into chaos. This god is said to dwell in the highest heaven, known as Ometecuhtli, the place of duality. From there, they oversee the workings of the universe, ensuring that the balance of all things is maintained. Now here's something fascinating. Despite being one of the most important gods in Aztec mythology, Ometeotl wasn't commonly worshipped by the masses. There was no grand temples dedicated to Ometeotl in the way you'd find for Mythlopoetli or Tlaloc. Why, you ask? Well, it's because Ometeotl existed beyond the earthly concerns of the people. Their role was more metaphysical, a force that permeated everything rather than a god you would appeal to for reign or victory in battle. Ometeotl was the source from which all other gods and forces flowed. Some scholars believe that Ometeotl was more of a philosophical concept that only priests and scholars deeply understood and revered. High priests would meditate upon the nature of duality and perform rituals acknowledging the balance of life and death. But Ometeotl wasn't someone you prayed to for a good harvest. However, the idea of duality that Ometeotl represents was embedded in every aspect of Aztec life. The Aztecs believed that harmony could only be achieved when these dual forces were balanced, whether in nature or in society or even within themselves. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this journey into the cosmic balance of Aztec mythology, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so that you don't miss any future episodes. We've got so many incredible myths to explore together, and your support helps keep us going. Back to the dual god that holds the universe in perfect harmony. There aren't many stories where Ometeotl takes center stage, but the myths surrounding the creation of the world often trace back their origins back to this dual deity. According to Aztec cosmology, the world went through several ages or suns, each one created and destroyed by the gods. Ometeotl is said to have existed before all these ages, and it was from their union that the gods who created the world were born. In one myth, Ometotl's children, the four Tezcatlipoca's, create the world, but it is constantly destroyed and recreated. This reflects the eternal cycle of creation and destruction, a cycle that Ometeotl embodies. The duality of their nature reflects this cosmic truth. For the world to exist, there must both be life and death, both creation and destruction. Without Ometeotl, the world would be stagnant, lifeless, unchanging. Now you might be wondering, what about today? How does Ometeotl, this abstract concept of duality, influence modern-day culture? Though Ometeotl doesn't have the same modern-day following as some other deities, the concept of duality is deeply embedded in many aspects of Mexican and Mesoamerican thought. You can see that in the continuing importance of balance in indigenous spiritual practices. The idea that life and death are a part of the same cycle is reflected in celebrations like the Dia de los Muertos or the Day of the Dead, where the death is not mourned but celebrated as a part of life's eternal flow. Even in broader spiritual community, the notion of duality, of balancing masculine and feminine energies, of finding harmony between opposites, echoes Ometotl's ancient wisdom. As we close, let me leave you with something to ponder. If we think about Ometotl's balance of duality, what does that mean for us in today's world? How do we find balance between the conflicting forces in our own lives? Can we, like Ometeotl, embrace both creation and destruction, light and dark, to achieve a state of harmony. It's a question worth reflecting on, don't you think? Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Ometeotl, the dual god of Aztec mythology. I hope you enjoyed learning about this fascinating deity and the cosmic forces they represent. Until next time, this is your host, Nitin Nair, reminding you to stay curious and stay mythical.